In 2019, Netflix released one of the most brilliant sci-fi shows on TV in the last decade, Altered Carbon. Season 1 was a masterpiece and really shows how good the streaming platform could be. Season 2 just came out. Like most sequels, it goes to show that it can't live up to the original. Now, just to get this out here in the beginning, a lot of people accuse me of hating on everything, and it hurts me. It hurts me to my core to have to say Season 2 wasn't nearly as good as Season 1. But it's true, guys. For a quick recap, Altered Carbon is the story of humans in the far future on a different planet called Harland's world. On this world, they found aliens and alien technologies that allowed people to put their consciousness into a futuristic USB thumb drive that you could take out of the body and either put into another body or put into a fake mechanical body called a synth. Now, this led to a whole lot of very interesting theoretical questions. You have people who are wealthy enough to afford to buy new bodies. They're called the meths. They sort of run the society. They're the billionaires, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Donald Trumps of the future. And they may basically control Harland's world and many other worlds, it seems. There's an overarching government called the Protectorate, but Harland's world seems to be special, and they don't really control what goes on there. The average person can't really afford the skin suits, as they call them, the fake bodies, or the synths, but you have the chance to, for example, bring your family members back. There's a scene where there's a police officer who is Hispanic, and she brings her grandma or great-grandma, I can't remember which, back in the body of a criminal for Day of the Dead. So there's a lot that goes on. What happens to people when they're effectively immortal? What you end up having is a lot more prostitution. There will be certain bodies that are just for prostitution, and people will swap their consciousness into that body and work that job and then maybe go back to their own body later. You have a lot of sexual exploration because there's really no longer a link between the mind and the body. The physical and the mental are kind of completely separate now. You have prisoners who their stacks, that's what they call the thumb drives. They take out the stacks and they just put you in stasis for years. And when you come out, you're stuck in whatever body they have available. And you also have the very indulgent rich, people who are now living for hundreds of years. They don't really say exactly how old they are, but they do mention hundreds, maybe even 1,000 years. Who can say? And these people have taken to, quote unquote, murdering people. They will basically murder your body, your skin suit, and they'll buy you a new one. Now, there is death, which they call real death, and that happens if the thumb drive gets destroyed. It could be shot out, it could be crushed, you could fall from a great height, whatever. And that was really the whole premise of season 1, is exploring this. Now, there was a bit of a storyline, of course. There was this rebellion by someone called Quellcrist Falconer, and there was only one survivor, who was Takeshi Kovachs. Now, Takeshi was captured, he was put on ice, and he's brought back by one of these meths, one of these billionaires, because the people in this rebellion, they were super awesome with like Batman, like detective skills and physical prowess and everything. So to hopefully make this a bit shorter, Takeshi, he's got to figure out who was trying to kill this meth and blah, blah, blah. But he wants to find his girlfriend. He thinks she's dead, but he hopes that he can find her thumb drive. His girlfriend was this Quellcrist, and he met his sister, his long-lost sister. So season 1 was about all of that, but it had this subtext of exploring the morality of the world in which they live. Season 2, man, not great. Now, it did some things really well. I liked some of the new cast. You had Anthony Mackie, Falcon from the Marvel movies. He takes over as Takeshi Kovachs because you can swap bodies. I like him in most things. He was all right. You had Simone Missick. She came in as kind of a bodyguard, bounty hunter type person. You might remember her from the very ill-fated Iron Fist and Luke Cage series. She played Misty Knight. I have to say, she's not my favorite actress, but she did all right in this. She wasn't nearly as hammy. All your favorites from season 1 do show up at some point, which I like. I like that it's got a continuation, but for the most part, they don't show up affecting the main story. The one exception is everybody's favorite, Poe. Poe was an AI. He was a hologram computer program that ran a hotel. Although, now that I'm thinking about this, how come in this world you can have people put their minds into basically robot or synthetic bodies? Why can't the AIs put their minds in these robotic bodies too? Anyways, Poe is really disappointing in season 2. He's been going around helping Takeshi try to find his presumably dead girlfriend, and now he's developed what they call a glitch, which is like hologram cancer. So eventually it's going to kill him, and he's got to reboot, and he's forgetting stuff. And the problem with this is it really takes him out of almost the whole season, with the exception of like the last 2 episodes. He can't help Takeshi. Takeshi's frankly a real jerk to Poe for most of the time. And at the end, the last 2 episodes, they kind of forget that Poe can't remember stuff anymore. He's finally able to hack into things, help Takeshi with this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then Takeshi finds his girlfriend. She doesn't remember him. Then she's kind of not into him. And then they find a new resistance. And then the whole thing was a setup by the daughter of the meth from the first one, and blah, 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 blah. Man, all it was like a revenge romance tale. I have to say it's pretty disappointing. They finally introduced the alien life forms, and they just kind of like killed it right away. That's all there was to it. There was no grand overarching themes. There was no plan. Even the boobs, season 1, there was a lot of nudity, a lot of sex. I don't want to say it was 100% necessary for the plot, but it played into it. The nudity and the gratuitous sex made sense in the context of the story, with people so free about sexuality, since it's just physical pleasure with a sack of meat, as opposed to how we might consider our bodies as more extensions of ourselves in our lives now. In season 2, we see man-ass once, I think somewhere around episode 5, and the only time we see a pair of boobs is in episode 8. Now, one thing I did like about this season is that it was a shorter 8-episode season. A lot of the Netflix shows that were 10 episodes, I guess that was the original sort of standard they were higher, they would drag. There would be 1 or 2 episodes that just was boring. With the 8, it really shortens things up, which is better. Another sort of problem was the action. I can't believe it, but Anthony Mackie was not great. He was just kind of with the action scenes. I would have expected the Falcon to be better. We also have the return of Will Yoon Lee, who played Takeshi's original body, and he looks good. Man, his fighting skills look great, especially for a TV show. In the original season, the worst episode was an excellent episode for the Syfy network. The best episodes, I would say, rivaled anything you would see on HBO. This season was definitely like a typical Syfy network thing. Now, the graphics were great. I liked the way it was shot. It was a little too much sitting around talking about things for my liking, but it did move at a fairly decent pace. I wasn't getting too bored like in the Marvel shows where people just sit around and talk about their feelings all the time. Altered Carbon Season 2, it was okay. I don't want to say it was bad. I enjoyed it. I may watch it again before Season 3 comes out, which will hopefully be better. But definitely Season 1 as a standalone is pretty darn awesome. What do you think? Did you guys like Altered Carbon Season 2? Let me know in the comment section down below. Give this video a thumbs up and click subscribe to the channel. We'll be back soon with more.